Hood Story, featuring Zito Green. The reason I'm doing this Hood Story, I had an idea about this shit like 8 years ago, maybe longer. They had a booth downtown by Center Street where you could go tell stories and all that. But I was like, yo, I always like stories and shit. Like, I always appreciate a good story. And I was telling my cousin, like, yo, we should come out with this joint called Reminisce.com. And I don't think he really was like, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of podcasters out there and shit that talk and all that. So, I mean, that inspired me to make one and shit. So, on this joint, on my voyage and shit, I'm gonna just be telling stories about my life and all that. And this story right here that I'm gonna tell y'all about is the first storyteller that I knew. And the first storyteller that I knew was the first woman in my life that I knew, and it was my mom's. Now, my mom's, she never spoke to me like I was a kid or a baby. Like, she never babied me as much as I can remember. My older cousins say we would spoil you. Alright, we probably would spoil you, but as far as like talking, my mom's never talked to me as a kid. Like, she always gave me like reality shit, like as a young kid, like a dose of reality all the time. And my mom used to sit there and tell us these drug dealer stories and shit, and tales about how my father was at the drug spot at the door with the shotgun cocked, and they couldn't point the shotgun down because if they did, it would have went off. So they had to keep the shotgun pointed up and shoot it off on the roof and all this crazy madness. Like, as a young kid, she used to tell us these stories and all that. So like, ever when I was around my friends and all that, I would always like tell stories and things about my life, and some things may sound far-fetched, and some things, I mean, people could relate to. But my mom's, she grew up in Harlem. So when we used to be with my mom's in Harlem, we used to walk from like 110th to 145th every day. Everybody would stop her. We couldn't walk a block without my mom's not knowing somebody. We'd be stopping, I'd be tired, like, oh man, yo, I'd be ready to fall asleep in the streets and shit. So yeah, like my mom used to have us going on these shopping sprees like every day. Either we was in like going shopping for the house, buying dishes and spoons. We'll be buying clothes. My mom used to love to dress and shit, so we be downtown in Canal Street. That's what Canal Street had, nothing but leather jacket stores and jewelry stores. My mom used to be in there buying a sheepskin, a leather bomber, a mink one day. My mom's had one closet for just all her regular coats, like her sheepskin, her leather bombers, and her goose downs, whatever coats in there. And then she had another closet with just only minks in there, like 6-7 minks and shit. And my pops had his own closet and shit. When they leave us in the house, I'll be in there putting on the sheepskin and all that. Swearing to God, I'm about to go to Disco Fever or some shit. But yeah, that shit used to be hilarious. So yeah, one day we down at Canal Street. My mom's just getting a name ring. She used to have name rings, chains, my fault. Name rings, chains with her name on it, earrings with her name on it. So one day we was down there, she was getting a ring or whatever. So this dude was in there, he was ordering something or whatever. Dude tries to run out the store. Yo, homie jumped over the counter with the Chinese pants with the slippers on, kicked the shit out of homeboy. They pulled the sword out and all this shit. I'm looking at my mom's grabbed her, screaming and shit, running. Bro, we had to get the fuck up out of there. Bro, my mom used to have us out every night and shit. Guys trying to holler at her and shit. One day we walking home and shit. I'm thinking this guy was walking up from behind us, like trying to tell my mom something. This nigga just snatched my mom's pocketbook and kept it pushing. Now on the side of my building, It was a steep ass hill on the side of my building. This motherfucker ran straight up that shit. And I'm like, this motherfucker running mad slow. But I was a kid. I couldn't catch him. But this motherfucker decided to run up the steepest hill in the Bronx and shit. Word. So yeah, that shit was used to be some ill shit back in the Bronx, yo. My mom's got robbed one time. Nigga snatched my motherfucking ski hat off my head. It was like some ski hats. I used to call them the hatchet head joints. I used to hate these shits. My mom used to dress me up in clothes that I could not stand, yo. I used to be in school taking that shit off. I swear to God, I used to be taking all that shit off, taking that shit off in my book bag. Had me and my brother looking alike. I used to have to fight motherfuckers at the bus stop and all that shit. In elementary school, this nigga fucking tried to pull my hood over my head. And I had like a burgundy. It was longer than a 3/4. It was like a full length. A burgundy full length coat and shit with a hood. It was probably some shit the older motherfuckers was wearing and shit or something, but I ain't like that shit. I ain't like the shit. I used to be mad constricted, mad clothes, mad hot. My mom sending me to walk to school and shit. This motherfucker tried to pull my fucking hoodie over my head. This man like, yo, leave that little girl alone. I'm like, nah, this is it. This is the last of this shit. Like, I ain't doing this shit no more. Like, or I was telling my mom, I was like, yo, stop dressing. Like, I'm not wearing all that clothes no more. I want to wear my own clothes. Like, I want to make my own decisions on what I want to wear and shit. But she used to have us spiffed out, sending us to school with bow ties and shit and all that. It was like, nah, I can't do that no more. Well, walking around in Harlem, my moms was like the coolest moms and shit. We'll be like walking, some girls will be doing double dutch and shit. She'll jump right up in the double dutch shit. They'll be like, their faces light up like, oh shit, look at this lady, yo, she know how to double dutch. She used to be spinning, jumping, turning around, touching the ground, all that shit, yo. They couldn't believe that older woman. She probably wasn't even old, yo. My mom's was probably like 20 something, like 22 or some shit, jumping up in the middle of the jumping in the middle of the rope and all that. Well, like, all my friends liked my moms and shit. And one day, like, when I was a kid, I used to fight a lot, like, all of my friends, like, really. I had to fight with every single last one of my friends in my neighborhood, like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, they sisters, I done fought them and they sisters, they brothers, all that shit. Like, I done fought the people in the store. I done fought everybody in my neighborhood growing up and shit. So, I used to fight all the people in my neighborhood and shit. So, the older dudes and shit, they was mad at me and shit because they used to feel that I used to want to fight with them all the time, but I ain't used to want to fight other people, like, from other places and shit. So they was like, yeah, we gonna get these niggas or whatever, to come over here and fuck y'all up or whatever. So I'm in the house and shit, and my moms know I be outside. She like, yo, why you ain't outside? I'm like, nah, cause you know, Andre and them, they said they gonna do this, they gonna get some boys to come in this and this and this and that. My mom's just like, so where your brother at? I'm like, he outside. She like, well, you better not let nothing happen to your brother. I'm like, I just had to. She like, I wrap your brother hands up. He got something wrapped up around your hands. You better go grab you a bat or wrap your hands up and go handle what you got to do. I was like, all right. Like, we used to be in the crib, like, my mom used to be teaching us how to take niggas down, like, same shit like that. She'd be like, yo, if a nigga walk up to you, you just grab him, you flip him like this. And you were like, bro, my mom used to be in there, like, teaching the nigga, like, tactics and all that, like, to have heart and all that, like, not to back down out of you know what I mean? And confrontations and shit like that. Wow, yo. I appreciate that Drew right there, because, you know, growing up and shit, I had to, you know, can't let nobody fuck you over and shit. And sometimes, you know what I mean, motherfucker will expect you to let them do that, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta, you know what I mean, in some situations, fight for yours and shit. So yeah, that's how that shit used to go. But yeah, my mom used to always like push us out there to like inspire to like make money and all that. Like one of the first hustles I used to have and shit, cause like I said, my other hood stories, I used to always like be with the older guys. So these dudes just be talking about having sex and all that. They were like, yo man, you ain't never had no sex, nigga. You just make me do this and this and this and that. I'm like, oh shit, like. So my mom used to accumulate condoms, a whole bunch of boxes of condoms and shit, cause she used to be going like to doctors and all this shit. So they used to be giving like mad condoms and shit. So them shits would be in the crib. So I bring a condom outside one day. Niggas like, yo, he snatched that shit out my hand. Like, yo, I need this shit. Yo, I just started selling them shit to them niggas like $1 condom back then. Like, they making deals with me and all type of shit for them condoms. That was like one of my first hustles, selling condoms to like the high school, junior high school kids and shit. I'm still in elementary school and shit, selling condoms and all that. My mom's had me out there doing that and shit. But she ain't have me doing it, but you know, she always taught me like not to like depend on her like for money and all that shit, and not to, you know, cause she told me like, you know what I mean, one day you gonna get older, like, you know what I mean, what you gonna do? You gonna live off another woman welfare check? Like, what's up? Like, I mean, I'm like, nah, I ain't trying to do that. So she's like, yeah, you gotta get you a job and find your hustle and shit or whatever you gonna do. So from fucking collecting cans, taking my neighbor's cans and shit, then to going to selling condoms to the older dudes, then to washing windows, I mean, on 167th and Jerome, then to delivering pizza on 84th Street in Lexington at Mimi's Pizza and shit. That's where I first seen my first $100 in singles, $100 in period in my life, working at Mimi's Pizza, on 84th and Lex. They probably not there no more, but yeah, that was my first joint. My mom used to be proud of me and shit. I mean, come bring home pizza and shit at the end of the day. That shit was a good feeling and shit. I mean, that's the shit, type of shit I learned from my moms and shit, like to just basically be independent. You know, try to you know, make my own money, find my own way, and I try to, you know, give that lesson to my kids. You know, like, you don't want to be working hard all your life and shit. So, you know, you got your side hustle, do what you could do now, build up your side hustle, then eventually, you know what I mean, that become your main source of income, but now you got two sources, you know what I mean? So that's what I try to tell them and shit now, from what I learned and shit through my moms and shit, being the first storyteller and just telling me like stories of how things are real and shit, and not, you know, sugarcoating things like so much and shit. Like, even like, there was like a time in my life, I was like probably like 13, but I always used to find these 16-year-old girls, like 15, 16-year-old girls and shit. They be smoking cigarettes, switching, they got a little bit of breasts and all that. My mom used to be like, yo, like, yo, you know these like 12, 13 years old? Like, they like, yo, she like, for real? Like, I'm like, no, I'm not, yo, don't listen to her, yo. Like, my mom was like, yo, what you gonna do, like, with these girls and shit? I mean, like, one day they decide to, I mean, take it a little further. What you gonna do? I'm like, what you mean, like, what I'm gonna do? But I'm like, you know, I was a virgin and shit at the time. Like, most I was doing was, I'll put a hickey on a girl's neck, slob it down for like a whole hour and all that, catching blue balls and all that. But yeah, but I ain't know nothing about sex really like that. I ain't know nothing about that shit really, truthfully. I used to always be coming around with these 16-year-old girls smoking cigarettes and all that, smoking bogeys at 15 and shit. I wasn't even smoking weed or drinking or none of that shit at that time. Or my mom used to be like, yo, you doing the most right now, yo, you bugging out. That was like the only time my mom really like was giving me like relationship advice. Other than that, my mom would just let me rock out and just, she won't let me crash out, but she'll let me make my own decisions and experience what I gotta experience. I mean, to learn what I gotta learn and know what I gotta do the next time. So yeah, that was the gem for the day. So I'll holler back at y'all the next true story. Probably be about Rikers Island. I'll let y'all know.